Hi, welcome to Repairing Lawnmowers for Profit. I just thought I'd film this video. So I've been outside a lot recently. This weekend I've got a collection of mowers there that I'm going to work on. If you can see in garage here, I've got another 9 or 10 in there that are actually, you know, listed in various different places to sell. But I've just got this out of the car. I picked this up last night. I got it off a chap on eBay. And just before I started looking at it, obviously it's not in working order. I just thought I'd film around it and just let people know what I think of it. The guy said he's had it and basically can't get it started. In his honest opinion, it would be an easy fix and whatever, you know. This is a Mountfield multi-clip. As you can see here, he's obviously not sure what's going on here with the handle, but basically all that needs to do is, he said it needed a drive cable on, which of course it hasn't got because it's not self-propelled, but I need to sort that out. Make sure that micro switch, make sure that clicks when that's working, but obviously I've scrapped that. The first thing I'll do is drain any fuel out of it. So it looks a bit disgusting in there. But another thing I just looked at, which I always do, just have a look underneath. Just a little tip really, make sure the blade isn't sticking below the cutter deck, because if it's sticking below the cutter deck, it's a good sign that it's bent. Is the blade. You see, as you can tell there, if you wind it round, it's nice and level, it's nice and flat, it's not protruding out of the bottom of the deck. So that's a good sign. Now, just looking underneath it, if you can see here, this actually doesn't sit, the blade isn't actually sat properly on this blade adapter, because you can see here there's a hole there. It should actually sit on a pin. The pins have snapped. Now that wouldn't always stop it from starting up, but it can throw the timing out. So I'm reckoning if I change the fuel, take the handle out, basically put this blade adapter on with a different blade adapter and get the blade in the correct position, I'm up and this is going to fire up, and I'm going to turn myself a tidy profit. So I'll get started. I think I'll start with the handle first and try and work out what it's done there and get this pulling this micro switch out properly, making sure that that releases the safety, and from there I'll have a look at the blade I think and change the fuel. Right, so that's the first thing sorted out. As you can see here, I've just hooked this cable back on here. Basically the handle was just on upside down, it was sticking over the back of the mower rather than the front. So now as I pull the handle, see, it's moving that cable, it's releasing the micro switch as you can hear. That's the first problem solved. Right, just for a bit of fun, I'll put the handle back on. I've not touched it. Let's see if it works. I think it'll work. I don't think it will. And that's brilliant. I mean, I picked that up last night for a chap on eBay. The listing said he's tried everything to get it going, needs a drive cable. I'm not sure what's wrong with it. Basically, I put the handle back on the right way and it starts. The fuel's probably old and it'll drain that out. I'm going to take a look underneath it and make sure that this blade's on correctly as well, just to make sure it's safe as well. So I'll have a look at those bits, but once again, cheap lawnmower there. These are quite expensive to buy, these multi-clip ones. Actually cut your grass without needing a box on. It beds it back all into the grass as well. So hopefully some more potential profit coming up there. So make sure the micro switch is working, make sure the handle's on right, make sure the blade's not bent. Now I'm going to get this blade back on properly. I'll have a quick look in my garage, see if I've got another blade boss for it. So I've just got this blade adapter off. It came off quite easy actually. This is what I was meaning about the pins. I've said this in a previous video. There's actually one on my channel showing about these pins and what can happen if they don't work, but you can probably tell here that they're both actually different heights, so you can have a problem if you do this. This is recommended for one with a drive, but as long as the pins are the same distance apart that they go through the blade, that's one thing. But the only other important thing is that's a lot shorter from top to bottom than this one. You need to make sure that when you put this on, that it doesn't stick out too far off the bottom of the mower, just so that it doesn't basically dig into the grass when you're cutting. So if we push that on there, as you can see, it's gone on okay. The way to do this is just to pop the blade on, push it on the pins. Before you tighten it up, just check, like I said at the beginning, just check that the blade's not actually protruding out the bottom of the mower decks. If it is, say if it's like that, if the adapter's too long, what it'll do then, obviously, if you drop it down, it'll just cut great big circles in somebody's grass after they've purchased a mower from you. So if you do use a different blade adapter, make sure the pins fit and make sure the blade's not sticking out from below the mower. Right, so I've just fitted this blade back on. Actually I've just sharpened it up as well, as you can tell there. It's just, I've just given that a sharpen up on the ground in the garage. It's got the blade adapter on, it's all nice and tight. And now when I come to sell that, I can be happy that the customer's going to get a lawnmower that's not going to have a blade dropping off it, causing anyone any injury. So it's on the pins, the blade adapter's the right height. As you wheel it round here, as you wind it round, you can see that it's not protruding the cutter deck, and I'm happy with that. So I'll take a look at the oil. Basically I'll probably change the plug, might just take this for a little test run around the corner on some local wasteland and just see how it goes. See, now I'm just back at home, and although that started and ran and cut the grass quite well, the problem I can see with it is that I've got no adjustment on this throttle here. Basically this engine, which is a Mountfield SV150 engine, it's just running at full throttle all the time, and basically if it carries on like that, then the engine's not going to last much longer. So I'm just going to take the recoil cover off, and I'm going to take the engine cover off, and I'm going to have a look. So I've had a little mess about with the throttle adjuster, which is basically behind here. It's just a Phillips screw, and you can move the cable back and forward. It makes no difference. So I'm suspecting that there might be some part of the throttle linkage that's either broken or missing. So I'll take the cover off and we'll have a look. As you can see here, I've just removed this outer cover and this starter recoil. It's very simple to do. It's just 3 Phillips screws which go in these holes. And then on top of this starter recoil, just 3 10mm sockets to undo that. And as I suspected here, this it does have a governor. This is a governor flap assembly. This part here that moves, it's called the governor flap assembly. You can see there, it basically sets the speed when the engine's running. It keeps and maintains the speed. It balances on these springs. Now, as you can see here, this is actually snapped. This linkage is supposed to go into a hole, and it all joins together and basically balances on the spring to keep the engine's at the right speed for whatever you set it at. So as you can see, that's snapped off, so hopefully I'll have a spare one of these. So if you find this, it's very unfortunate that this can happen really, because it's right in the middle of the engine. I've had a couple of these SV150s. I'm not sure if it's just a really cheap part that they've put on, but I've actually had a couple of these snap. But it is very, very unusual. So if your lawnmower's running really fast, you might want to take a look at this one, make sure that this hasn't actually snapped off. So I'm going to take that off and I'll go in my garage and see if I've got a spare. As I said, I've got a garage full of mowers at the minute. But I always keep my spares from anything I get rid of. I basically keep everything but the deck most of the time. I've got boxes of bits galore in there, but I'm hopefully have a look in these two up here, just near this tennis racket, to see if I've got a spare governor flap assembly. Actually, I've just found another governor flap in this, so I did have one, but unfortunately for me, didn't notice when I put it away. It's actually snapped in exactly the same place, which suggests a bad design fault or a bad part. But luckily for me, in the corner, I always keep a spare SV51 engine, 150 engine over here, and I always keep a Briggs engine just for bits. So you can see here, I've actually got a Briggs engine that's ready to bolt in, an SV150 with one on. So I'm just going to take that one off, and I'm going to rob that one for this machine. Always handy to keep a couple of spare engines, especially in Mountfield and a Briggs. See here, I've got this governor flap assembly off here. It's actually got 2 holes in it, one for the linkage I showed you, one for a little spring as well. It's actually the best thing to do is put the little spring in first, just push them back together. You see here, it's just filming. You see that's the end of the linkage I'm moving about, and below it there's a spring. That little spring goes in the hole, and this throttle linkage obviously goes in the bigger hole. So I'll put those 2 in first, and we'll put this on and see what we get. So I've got that back in. Just thought I'd take an opportunity just to film the linkage really on this SV150 engine. If anyone's wanting to know where all the linkages go, I've had a few requests for it just over the last few weeks actually, that you can actually see here that this is how it works. This one here just basically sets your idle speed, make sure all your springs are in together. The 2 where I showed you, the thin spring connector and the linkage as well, and it goes to the front, basically around there. So that'll probably be really handy for someone who's struggling to get the mower going and wants to know the linkage configuration on an SV150. That all appears to be working okay, so we'll put this back together and give it another test. Got the cover back on. Just noticed this spark plug's not correct either. It should have an end on like that. It shouldn't be flat. So lucky it was working as long as it gets a connection, but just for the sake of a couple of quid I'll just change the plug. So I've got that back together now. I'm just going to test this. I'm also going to move the throttle adjuster, which is at the top of the handle, just to make sure that it will go down to idle and speed back up now it's got the correct parts on. So I'll start it up and I'll run it at full speed now. I'll keep turning it up and down, see what we get. Just on this handle here, look. I'm just going to move that up to choke. there we go. This mower's now running correctly as far as I'm concerned. It's had the blade done, it's got the right blade adapter on that's not too deep. I've changed the plug, basically done a little bit of investigation work and put that governor flap assembly back on. Got it all up and running, and it's functioning exactly as it should, so I'm probably just going to change the oil now. I'm going to polish this up a bit and make it look a bit like new if I can. And I'm going to do a good listing. I think I'll put this one on eBay as soon as the sun's out. So I hope this has helped anyone out who's looking to start repairing lawnmowers for profit as I do. Please check out the website repairinglawnmowersforprofit.com. There's also a free startup guide on there if you're looking to see what's on the DVDs that we sell there as well. So thanks very much for watching. Please feel free to subscribe, rate or leave a comment.